Of the Work the Crowd podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dougie Fresh, and as always, I'm here with Jacob Klukas. What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy? Been been a cold, snowy week.
Yeah, it is. I was able to leave my house though. That's good.
Yeah, got to make it to work.
Well, I
Well, yeah, no, you, it's just going across the hall, but
yeah. Uh, we are live again this week, right now. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're listening. If you're listening to this episode recorded, we will be live on most Sundays. So
yep.
we're
If you all are wondering as well, um, I'll add the links to actually our YouTube page, but we are live on our YouTube page. We are also live on my Twitch account, which is Coach JTV, and then my Facebook page, it's Jacob Klukas. So if
yeah.
you all are wondering where you can watch the lives at.
Well, for this week's episode, this is the week before the Super Bowl, the Sunday before. So we're gonna give our Super Bowl picks and talk about the game. Some Deion Sanders has some pretty strict rules and some fines at Colorado this upcoming year. So we're gonna talk about that. Just some miscellaneous college basketball stuff, and then Paul George uh, suspended for the anti violating the anti-drug policy or whatever. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Whichever one you want to start
Uh,
with.
let's start with the let's talk about, we've always usually started with college football, so let's just start with the college football side of things, which is the Deion Sanders new rules and stuff at Colorado. Now, if you are a following member of this podcast, you know, about probably 2 weeks to about a month ago, we talked about how Colorado's like athletic department as a whole is kind of, I mean, they're in bad shape. I mean, they're losing money hand over fist. Like it's not funny really when you talk about it. But so now one has to think, did are these new rules um are these new rules part of that? Like, does this play a role in that? Like, um so so here's my thing. Or well, here are the rules first of all. So first of all, part of this was he announced to all incoming like transfers, um, all the incoming transfers. He said you are not allowed to wear your old team's like hoodie, swag, sweatpants, whatever. Can't wear it in the facility, which is understandable. He was like, you know, if you're gonna wear it, you wanted to be there, you'd still be there. You're not there anymore. You know, this is like if I wore my ex's hoodie to to my new girlfriend's house. Doesn't make sense. Why would I do it? So makes sense. But then there's this other part and this little detail, and I'm gonna read this off to you. I'm gonna take my glasses off to read this to you, Doug. Um, these fines include if you are late to practice, it's a $500 fine. If you are a no-show to practice, it is a $2,500 fine. If you are late to a meeting or film, it's a $400 fine. No show, meeting, or film, $2,000 fine. Late to conditioning, $1,000 fine. No show to conditioning, $1,500 fine. Late to treatment, $1,000 fine. No show to treatment, $1,500 fine. Um, Violating a team rules is anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 fine. And then a public or social misconduct is anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 fine. So let's start off here. What do you think, Doug?
Well, so I like the precedence he's trying to make. And nowadays with NIL, all the players are about their money anyways. Um, Players in the NFL get fined for stuff all the time. So if we're gonna start making this like it is. Let's just say it how it is. This is basically college free agency. College. This is how college football is now. I think it's fine. You get fined that people don't. Hey, these players don't want to lose their money, so they're going to be on time for this stuff now. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me is how they would treat this for the non-NIL players, your walk-ons, or maybe your lower end players, scholarship players who probably aren't getting paid that much NIL. I think that's kind of unfair to maybe have that steep of a price if they are, if something happens. But I guess if you're a walk-on, you're not going to want to miss stuff anyways. You shouldn't. You probably get kicked off the team.
Yeah, if you're a walk-on, you can't afford to miss anything. You've got to make everything.
But if circumstances do come up, and obviously, I guess it's all a matter of Deion's opinion or coach's opinion, right? So if something comes up, I'm sure they work something out. But overall, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is getting you prepared for the NFL. All this stuff, you show up to the NFL, all these fines. Now, we don't necessarily always hear about it to the public knowledge, but all these are NFL guideline rules. Like,
yeah,
you don't show up, you get fined. Just like certain players, you don't show up to a media, thing you're supposed to show up to, you get fined. Like, it's all part of. And also, kind of like you said, we're treating this like this is essentially almost semi-professional football at this point. So we're going to treat you like it. And also, guess what? Nowadays with these athletes, it's not about, you could send them to the field and we're going to run up and downs all day long. And I could sit you for a practice or have you go hit the bicycle for a practice, whatever coaches always did, to kind of like punish you for practice. That stuff doesn't affect kids anymore. Because guess what? Oh, you're going to punish me? I'll just hit the portal. That's fine. Oh, you want to do that? Guess what? I'm talking to this other college now. So guess what? Hit them where it hurts. And where it hurts now is their pockets.
Yep.
So I listen, Deion may not be, Deion to me is more so, and it's not, and I to take this lightly, it's not like, because he's not bringing in highly talented recruits. He's the Calipari of college football. He's getting people more so ready for what's next than what is right now.
Well, he better win some games, or he's going to be out
anyway.
Have
to start doing something. But maybe Colorado just needs to look at leaving their conference. But Deion's getting them ready for life after college. Like, even for the guys that aren't going to play football, to just understand being late, not showing up, there's consequences to your actions. Like, this isn't just a pro football thing and finding money. This is about teaching kids a lesson. So I'm all for this. I kind of hope that, maybe not so much, again, it's coach's discretion, because like you said, some kids aren't making money, whatever the case may be, which I'm sure there might be for like walk-ons and maybe somebody that doesn't make NIL or something. I'm sure there's probably different punishments, but I hope more coaches adopt this. And again, maybe not so much, maybe not as steep in price, but I love the idea of it. And speaking,
they shouldn't be doing these things anyway.
Yeah,
they shouldn't be spending. They shouldn't have to be paying all these fines.
I think eventually, what it also would boil down to is after a certain amount of, if you're a repeat offender so many times, Deion's probably just kicking you off the team.
Yeah, like you're not playing anyways.
Yeah. Speaking of transfer portal and everything else real quick, I want to throw this in there. I know that I didn't put this on there, Doug, but I just want to get your quick reaction to this. So we've heard, because I sent you that video, what John Calipari thought, how do you fix this transfer portal and everything. We saw what he said. Dabo Swinney came out because he's been in the news recently because he had a linebacker commit to him, and then literally like a week later, he's now decommitting out of the portal from Clemson and heading to Ole Miss. Now, there's tampering involved there. Obviously, what I think happened was Ole Miss got out of the playoff. They wanted this kid. They said, hey, what did Clemson offer you? We'll offer you more. And he ended up switching. Well, now there's this big investigation on it and whatnot. So Dabo, they've been talking to Dabo nonstop. And so here was his idea of it was kind of similar to Calipari's, but there was like a little bit of a twist. Obviously, you commit to a school, as a freshman, you get one transfer, you can free transfer, whatever. You get one. If your coach is fired, coordinator fired, something along those, like offensive or defensive, not like your quarterback's coach is fired, but like offensive, defensive coordinator, one of those major coaches are fired, you're allowed to transfer one time. And then so the twist in what Dabo said compared to what Cal said, he said, if you graduate college and you have graduated with your degree, you are allowed one free transfer year.
Okay.
And then everything else you have to sit. But he did say, if you have to sit a year for a transfer, he goes, you do not lose that year of eligibility. We will still allow you to have that extra year of eligibility, but you still have to sit the year. To at least, he was like, that way we're at least holding these kids to something. And I like it. I think that's something that they definitely need to adopt.
Yeah, I mean, the red shirt then comes into play a little bit because then it's another extra year of eligibility they could get.
But again, you're also,
I mean,
we're taking the year to sit, whatever. At least they're not getting the. If I'm a wide receiver, let's just say San Jose State, I go all out, kind of like Nick Nash last year, but he ended up going to the draft. But I ball out San Jose State. I decide I want to transfer. Coach doesn't get fired or anything. I still have to sit the year. So I not only have to wait the extra year to play, I now have to wait an extra year to go to the draft, but I'm still going to get to play.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it sounds like a good idea. And the graduate thing makes sense too, because if you've already got your degree and you're at the school you've been at, and you're like, hey, I'm just trying to get more playing time somewhere else or wherever, whatever it is, I think that makes sense to play another year.
I'm not sure, Zach. Sorry. Reading chat here. There was a Facebook post right before we started that I shared. It was like listing 7 coaches, and it said, which coach do you want to draw up the last play of a game? And for some ungodly reason, Doc Rivers was in that picture, and I'm just trying to figure out why Doc Rivers is in that picture. But anyways, off topic. But yeah, I really like the rule. And I think that's something that the NCAA needs to adopt now. But because other college coaches want it to happen, I'm sure the NCAA is not going to do it. So, it just seems to be how the way things work. So, but yeah, I really like the idea that Deion threw out there. So, I am a really big fan of that. But moving on, let's talk Super Bowl. Now, last week we kind of gave a little bit of first reaction predictions off the NFC title game, AFC championship game. So Doug, has your opinion changed at all? You've had a week to kind of sit on it, think about it. Where are we going?
No, I'm still going. I'm still going to go Seattle. I really do think this is going to be. I really do think it's going to be a good game. Seattle's just got so much firepower, man.
So you want to know what's
them to deal with the Patriots. Also, shout out, hi Callie, how's it going?
Hey,
hey.
Let's you want to hear something that's kind of gross to hear as well?
Gross?
Yeah,
sure.
So Seattle's in the Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
Yeah, obviously. Seattle this upcoming offseason has the 5th highest cap space going into the offseason.
Really?
Yep. So number 1 is the Tennessee Titans. They have $99 million in cap space to play with. So Robert Saleh, Brian Daboll, and them, they're going to have a lot of money to try to build something around Cam Ward and the Titans, which scares the hell out of me as a AFC South team,
Me too.
with already the Texans and the Jaguars being good. Number 2 is the team with the number 1 overall pick, 87 mil, that whoever their new head coach is, it might be Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks head coach, or Seahawks offensive coordinator, as their next head coach, maybe. But they'll have a lot of money to put around potentially Fernando Mendoza and the new looked Raiders. The Chargers are number 3 at 87 mil. The Jets 4 at 82.7. And then at 5 is Seattle, who has $75.6 million to play with.
Wow.
I mean, when you think about it, look at it. Sam Darnold's on a 3-year, $100 million deal. So he's only making 33 a year.
Yep.
And if you look at all their key pieces that they have, Kenneth Walker's still on a rookie deal. Jackson Smith-Njigba is still on a rookie deal. Like, Cooper Kupp is getting paid, practically nothing in Seattle, almost for the most part. But you start going down their line. Starting tight end, AJ Barner, rookie deal. Rashid Shaheed is still on a very low contract. Then you go to their offensive line. Charles Cross, Gray Zabal, all on rookie deals. You go to their defense. DeMarcus Lawrence is really the only one on their defense that is getting paid. Derek Hall, rookie deal. Devon Witherspoon, rookie deal.
Wow.
Byron Murphy, rookie deal. Leonard Williams is getting paid. But again, Woolen, Witherspoon, Nick Emanwari, their safety, all on rookie deal. All of their key players are on rookie deals. And then the rest of them that aren't, they're on team-friendly deals. And so
that's how you win championships.
Yeah. Now, we all know winning the Super Bowl, that's where it comes back to haunt you, because now they've all won a Super Bowl. Now everybody wants their payday. So does this, is Seattle able to maintain this, or, does everybody want to get paid and everybody ends up leaving, where we kind of see every year where Super Bowl teams seem to win a Super Bowl and then they fall apart the next year because of this?
Kinda. I mean, the Chiefs and the Patriots both were really good at it. The sustainability.
Yeah, because Brady and Mahomes Mahomes maybe not so much as much as Brady, but Brady always took team-friendly deals to have more people around.
Mahomes restructured contracts and stuff. But that money's a little different now than even when Brady was playing. So I think they have the blueprint. If Seattle's smart and Sam Darnold's smart, if he wants to keep winning, he'll just, when that 3-year deal is up, he's going to take a team-friendly deal, which he'll still get paid. They'll still pay him 50-something million a year, which I mean, I'm going to take that, and it's so much money. It's a lot of money, and still try and win championships. I mean, the blueprint's there. All they have to do is follow it. And it's not just it's not the organization, it's the players and what they're asking. They have to follow it. It depends on, do they want to win or do they want their money?
It also helps that Seattle has really smart people in the front office.
No,
they draft phenomenal.
Yeah, they draft well, and I'm sure there's a lot of ways to structure contracts that other teams aren't doing that can help the Seahawks as a whole. So I'm sure there's ways to play with that too. So I mean, yeah, I think Seattle can sustain it. I mean, why not? I think they can. I just, it's up to the players if they really do or not.
But yeah, all right. So now my pick, you're sticking with Seattle. I'm picking Seattle as well. I think this goes one of two ways. And I don't see really an in between. I think this is either a close game and by hook or by crook, somehow Drake May, Mike Vrabel, and then pull this off, or this is a Seattle blowout. I think it just goes either way.
It's possible.
And the reason I say that is because while in terms of facing opponents' defense, New England has had a tough road ahead of, to get by, going through the Chargers, then the Texans, then the Broncos in the AFC Championship game. But in doing so, Drake May has not been good in this playoffs. They've won, in which is all that matters at the end of the day, but he has not been good. And I mean, so far throughout the playoffs, in the 3 games that they've played, he's had a 55% completion percentage, 533 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It hasn't looked good. So now again, we talked about this last week. Could this be is Drake May in a Tom Brady like situation where it just doesn't matter in the heat, moment at his brightest, he turns it on? Could be.
Well, here's my take on that. Both playoff games that that he's played in, the first one was a rainy, sloppy mess, and the second one was full of snow. So the weather was very much a factor in how he played. This game will not be, because it's in San Francisco, and you won't have to worry about the weather. So I think we're gonna see full on Drake May in this game. So you'll see the numbers go up quite a bit, and they're going to give him the ball more to make plays. There is no limitations based on the weather. So that's where the close game comes into play for me.
Obviously, the game's a week away, so it's hard to show, but it is showing. It should be almost damn near perfect weather in San Francisco for Sunday right now.
It's San Francisco. It's pretty much the same weather all the time. So it's going to be perfect. It's going to be that's not a factor, but it was 100% a factor in the first 2 games he played in.
But then I just look at the quarterback play that the Patriots have played against also going into these. While playing great defenses, the offensive hasn't been great that they've played against. Justin Herbert has his playoff struggles. We all know. Texans, I mean, it just looked like CJ Stroud has just completely forgotten how to play football here. And then they played Jarrett Stidham and the Broncos, not Bo Nix and the Broncos. So this is really going to be the first time these playoffs that they're going to play a real offense that can score and can do a lot of different things. So does the defense rise to the occasion along with Drake May? I still think Seattle wins this. I think Sam Darnold has a phenomenal game. I think the difference truly in this game is I think Seattle's defensive line is going to be able to create different kinds of looks and blitzes and stuff to be able to get at Drake May and fluster them. So
now saying that, what was the statistic you read off to me last week? Was that every time, or the past 5 years, or past 5 Super Bowls, whatever?
Hold on. I think I have that somewhere.
Yeah. I think I'm going to butcher it, but I'll let you find it. But it basically was saying that every time a Super Bowl is played out west, each time an East team is traveling west to go play,
the team that has to travel west, it ends up winning.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, in this century, every time the Super Bowl has been played in between 2 teams, one team traveling east, one team traveling west. The team traveling west has won. So, that goes back to in 2002, the Super Bowl was in New Orleans. The Patriots are technically coming west to go to New Orleans. They beat the Rams in that Super Bowl. 2003 Super Bowl was in San Diego. Tampa Bay coming out to play the Raiders. Tampa Bay won. 2009 in Detroit, Seahawks, Steelers coming out west. Steelers won. And then, so on and so forth. The most recent one being last year in New Orleans, Eagles, Kansas City. Eagles technically coming west to go to New Orleans. They beat Kansas City. So,
yeah, I mean, that is a stat really to watch. I'm not sure why that's the case.
Which is wild to think about, because in that situation, not always, but like in that situation, like Seattle's not making a long trip. but New England's making literally a cross-country trip. So you would think maybe travel. I mean, I know they travel well in advance, but like traveling and getting used to time zones and stuff would usually, maybe take effect on some people. But
I thought that too, but I mean, these guys are professionals. That stuff
right.
doesn't really matter. I mean,
So
it could just be I think it's more weather based. If I'm being completely honest, uh, I think it's more of that because a lot of times you're playing in a dome or you're playing in nice weather if you're going out west. Uh, I think that's more. If you just talked about the Patriots, they play in snow constantly in the cold weather. Same thing with Philly. So
what are
it's
your thoughts on
stay
the
in
Super
Pittsburgh.
Bowl being scripted? I don't think the Super Bowl scripted.
No, it's not scripted. It's
Now,
just
now can they play around with, the referees and make certain calls to go a certain
yeah,
way?
that can
Sure.
happen.
That's Vegas, though. That's not the NFL.
Yeah, true.
But no, I don't think it's scripted. Yeah, I mean, dude, the whole big thing this whole past week has been, if you go back and look at the beginning of the year when the NFL posted
The
their
colors.
road to the Super Bowl, the colors. Yeah, I have to go back and look at the colors actually now and see if it matches up. But their road to the Super Bowl, like when the NFL season kicked off, I mean, literally, Doug, you had to zoom in to the very front of the Super Bowl sign, and people were saying, "Oh, they've been telling us all along who's going to play in the Super Bowl." Because if you zoom in the closest to the Super Bowl sign, literally up in front, there's a picture of Drake May and Sam Darnold. I mean, but you had to take time to zoom in. There's no way. All right, so Super Bowl 2026
It's 60.
logo. No, because these colors are purple and blue that I'm seeing. And the Patriots aren't purple, Seahawks aren't purple. Blue for Patriots would make sense, and the Seahawks, but there's no really purple in the mix. So maybe the curse is broken with that.
I think it is.
But yeah. So yeah, I'm going with Seattle now. Again, that stat of traveling west is very
It,
interesting
it
and something
something to think
keep
about.
something to think about. But I think Seattle's just been. I mean, it's been between Seattle and LA pretty much the back half of the year as the best teams in the NFL. So I'm gonna rock with Seattle. Now, if you know Dave Portnoy, he tried to make comparisons to on the AFC Championship game, and he said this is the start of the dynasty for the Patriots because he was like, he said, there's similarities from the Broncos and Patriots game to the Tuck Rule game, which is what started the Brady dynasty in New England. And in terms of not necessarily like the Tuck Rule itself, but the weather conditions it was played in, because that game was Raiders Patriots in New England. It was snowy, weather was terrible, and the Patriots found a way to win. Same thing in Denver, snowy, weather's terrible, Patriots find a way to win. He was like, then we went into that game against the Rams as underdogs. Nobody believed in us, and we came out and we won that Super Bowl, which upstarted the dynasty. And he's like, this is going to be the same thing with Seattle. Nobody believes in us. We're underdogs going in. So he thinks history is about to repeat itself.
Very possible.
So,
I mean, the spread's not that
spread,
far.
I think last I looked was 5.5.
It's going up to Seattle. It was started off at like 3.5 Seattle.
Right now it is 4. Well, according to CBS on here, it's 4.5 Seattle now.
That's probably right.
So,
yeah.
but yeah. So I'm
Should
going
be a fun one.
Seattle. Doug's going Seattle. So from all of us at the WTC Pod, we are picking the Seattle Seahawks.
We'll be cheering for Seattle, so we're not wrong.
Yeah, but won't be surprised if it goes the other way. All right. Let's talk a little college basketball, Doug. We've kind of put college basketball a little bit on the back burner a little bit because we've had so much NFL, so much college football going on. Now college basketball is, outside of the Super Bowl being Sunday, they're right in front. They're out front, ready to go now.
Mm-hmm.
And we are rounding third and heading towards tournament play now. In the month of February, this is where we start to make that leap where we find out who's real, who's not. What do we have going into March? Doug, I know you had a couple of things you wanted to talk about specifically with Louisville basketball, so let's hear it.
Well, the main thing is really what the hell Pat Kelsey was doing. Now, and these things I came up with were before this game yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say these are in regards to the Duke game earlier this week.
Look, Duke's really good, and they do have a really – and they're going to be a favorite to win the title this year. Their defense is absolutely suffocating, and they have some really good playmakers. So let's put that in perspective first. But to get blown out by 30 is ridiculous.
After only being down, what, 2 or 4? It was like 4 or 2 or something like that at halftime, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the second half adjustments just weren't there, and you completely saw the difference from what Duke was doing and what Louisville was doing. There was no difference for Louisville. But whatever Shire did obviously worked, right? I will say that was Mikel Brown's second game back from missing 8 games. And Kenai Ruths, who is basically a Swiss Army knife, also did not play in that game. And he was a huge factor against SMU yesterday. The problem is that he's not able to adjust when the game calls for it. There's one thing he likes to do. It's part of his analytics, which I think he's too much into analytics sometimes. And he can't adjust to the game as it flows, which is worrisome if I'm a Louisville fan. Yesterday was better. He did better with the substitutions. But against Duke, there was nothing he could throw at him to do that, to do anything. The players, I think, struggle a little bit when it comes to the physicality. And defensively, we get lost sometimes, especially with teams that move the ball well inside and out. And to me, that's just practice. But if you're not having your whole team there practicing with each other, I do think that matters. So this was a full week that that the full team was practicing. And I think we're on the right track. And I think ultimately he can figure this out. But even in the beginning of the SMU game, we started so slow. We weren't letting the game come to us more like naturally. It was more being forced. And defensively, they were getting lost. I mean, SMU was getting open jump shots, and then they got off. I mean, we were down at about 12 at one point. So now, obviously, we come back and we end up winning by 14. That second half was the best half of basketball I think Louisville has played this year because SMU is not a bad team. And I think this is something to build on. But he had to come out and make a statement in this game because you can't lose by 30 at a school that we would consider a blue blood in college basketball and lose the next game like that, and it's at home especially. So I think Pat Kelsey has to, basically to summarize this, Pat Kelsey has to continue to adapt and be able to adapt in game. The reason he won the game yesterday was because of the substitutions he and players he put on the court. The substitutions he made. So that ended up finding a lineup that worked against whatever they threw at us, and that's the whole reason we won. So, but again, I'm going to emphasize this. That is not an option when your whole team is not playing and practicing. So we are now at full strength, and he can now play around a lot with the lineup. So hopefully that means good things coming forward. That's really the main thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing, I guess, really is Mikel Brown. And I know he's just kind of getting back in the swing of things, but he and you can tell actually the SMU game was a prime example. The first half, he had 7 points, he had 5 turnovers, and it looked like he was just forcing everything. Like he was trying way too hard to score, trying way too hard to make ridiculous passes instead of him playing like a natural basketball player and letting the game come to him. And that's exactly what he did in the second half, and it completely showed. No turnovers. I think he had eight to 10 points. So he ended up having a pretty good game overall. But that second half was one of the better halves I've seen him play, other than the game against Kentucky. So because he's the glue. He brings everybody together. And Ruths was the guy who was I can guard the 4. I could guard the 5 if I needed, or he could guard a 2. He can switch off with the bigs and the guards, and he's a really good defender, and he rebounds well, and he's just not a good shooter, but he's a player that gets the fire going. And having him back full strength now is a must for us. He was my preseason difference maker player for Louisville. And for God's sakes, McNeely's got to make a shot. If he cannot, he did yesterday in the second half. Thank God. But he was struggling shooting, and that's not okay because defensively he's a little bit of a liability sometimes.
That's pretty much all he's there for.
Yeah, but I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. Defensively, it just depends on the matchup. He's not a liability all the time, but if he's not shooting, he's got to be able to do other things, and he wasn't doing it. So, but yesterday, like I said, that second half, it showed that we could really beat most teams if we played like that a full 2 halves. I mean, both times against Duke, we were right there in the first half. Just you got to finish the game. So, but yeah, I think this is something really to build on. My opinion kind of changed a little bit after watching that second half. So we'll have some tough games coming up with North Carolina and Clemson still left on the schedule. We got to go to SMU too. So those aren't, cupcake games. So we'll get a chance to win some good games, and then you'll have the ACC tournament. So I think he can turn it around. I think this goes to show with a full team and people practicing full weeks, which Michael kind of did, and he was sick a couple days. That's why he didn't start, but he looked fine. He can make it work. He's a good basketball coach. He knows the X's and O's. Again, I still think he's a little too analytical, but he has to be able to adapt. That's what makes great coaches, being able to adapt in game and make changes. So as long as he can keep doing that, I think he's going to be just fine. And it was starting to the reason I was going to bring it up is because it was starting to worry me. We haven't really won a big game here in a long time. So, although Kentucky's looking like a good win so far. Anyways, that's my spiel on Louisville basketball right now.
Kentucky basketball has got to be one of the most frustrating. Here's the thing. I would rather either just be really good or really bad at this point. Because this whole, one game, like last night against Arkansas, very good basketball team, top 15 team in the country on the road, despite everything that went on yesterday. And let me tell you, them refs, and don't even get me started on Doug Shows, but those refs have done everything, specifically Doug Shows. And Doug Shows thing has been going on forever in the SEC. How this guy is still an official is beyond me. But they have done everything in their power to make sure Kentucky did not win that game yesterday. So the first I don't know if you watched this game at all, Doug.
Some of it.
Okay, so did you catch? I think it was in the beginning of the second half when really it started in the first half when Ortega picked up that technical, which whatever, it happens. Then the second half was literally in a 30-second of gameplay time span of technicals everywhere. I mean, it looked like an Oprah Winfrey show. You get a technical, you get a technical, everybody gets a technical. This is 2 weeks in a row. Now, last week against Ole Miss, Otega Oweh got hooked on a drive. Ortega's got his hand straight up on the hook. He gets hooked. He gets called for the foul. One of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Then we show up yesterday and Mo Diabate gets a big time block, is hyped about it, not even talking to a fan or anything, just doing just getting himself hyped up, and he gets a technical foul for that. What the fuck? What are we doing? That's a tech? But then, meanwhile, I can watch Darius Acuff on Arkansas hit a three, weaving and bopping his head, talking to a Kentucky player. No tech there. Isn't that the same damn thing? But no tech was given. But listen, Kentucky did a good job overcoming all that. They allowed Arkansas to get back into the game, and then they found themselves back in, they retook the lead and, held on to it to the end. But it's so frustrating with Kentucky because I don't know every game what Kentucky team am I getting? Am I getting a similar team to yesterday, which is a very good basketball team? The Kentucky team that showed up yesterday and a couple weeks ago against Tennessee on the road, those two are very good basketball teams. They're not, championship contenders, but they're good basketball teams. But then I get games like this past week at Vanderbilt. Now, granted, Vanderbilt's a good team, but that just never got off the bus, apparently. It looks like. So I don't know what Kentucky team I'm getting week in and week out, every game. It doesn't, and you won't know until about the 10-minute mark of the first half. That's when you know what Kentucky team you're getting the rest of the game. So it's very difficult. Now, let's talk about Mark Pope a little bit. Because I've been on the fence. I haven't fully jumped on the let's get rid of Pope fence yet. Because I'm still holding on to just a little bit of hope. Because I do believe in terms of X's and O's and teaching basketball and everything and getting guys, because you've seen it, even with these games where they've been down 15 at the half and they turn around and they come back and they win. That's coaching.
Oh, 100%.
That's making adjustments. So it's there. Like Pope can do it. Where I think Pope struggles, his number one struggle, and granted it's only been 2 years, but I think where he struggles at is on the recruiting side of this. It's different to recruit. Well, I mean, now at BYU is one of the better teams in the country, and they've got a lot of money now all of a sudden. But it's not as hard to recruit at BYU to get people to come. I mean, it is, but it's not versus Kentucky, though, where expectations are a little bit higher. You can't just go get these same guys that you would go get at BYU to come play for you because in the SEC and at Kentucky, that shit doesn't work. You got to go get guys that fit the SEC and fit Kentucky basketball. So I'm going to read you off some names, Doug, because I saw a thing. This was just what the starting fives were supposed to look like based off of guys that were at one point crystal balled to go to Kentucky and just ended up not going. And whether that be, and I just think it's because Mark Pope can't close the deal on these guys. So Jaron Pierre was one of them who plays for SMU now. You watched him play against Louisville yesterday. Good player.
Mm-hmm.
Tonde Yesufu, who's at Baylor, missed out on.
We'll see.
Keyshawn Hall, who's at Auburn, balling out right now. He missed out on. Donovan Dent at UCLA right now is the starting point guard. He missed out on. Richie Saunders at BYU who originally put his name in the draft, but was flirting with the portal. He couldn't close out on to get him to enter the portal. Caleb Wilson, a freshman who was balling out at North Carolina, couldn't close out on him. Yaxel Lindenberg, who's at Michigan now, balling out for Michigan, couldn't close out on him. Lamar Wilkerson, who's now playing for Indiana, couldn't close out on him. And then Silas Denbury Jr., who played in the SEC at Georgia. He's right there in your back pocket that you could have taken. And nope, now he's balling out for UConn as their starting point guard. And not to mention the fact that he whiffed on AJ Devanta in recruiting. He whiffed on Caleb Wilson in recruiting, which I already mentioned, went to North Carolina. Whiffed on Nate Ament, who's now at Tennessee. I think his issue is he just can't close the deal when it comes to recruiting. So
is it him or is it his people he hires?
So I have a solution. Just do what a lot of these other teams are doing. And now, granted, this may be not necessarily a him decision. It may be an athletic department decision, and maybe Mitch Barnhart won't do it. And if he doesn't, you're just stupid. I don't know what to tell you. But do what some of these other schools are doing. Hire a GM. Hire somebody that's going to, where he goes to Pope and he says, you tell me what kind of kid you want and what fits your system, and let me go close the deal for you. And all you got to do is coach these guys. So, because I think if you get somebody that's good at their job at doing that, you can have some of the, maybe not all of them. I'm not going to say you land all of them, but you get one or two of these guys that make a big difference on your team. But like specifically with Pope, how do you go last year where Lamont Butler was such a critical piece to your team as a point guard? You missed him all last year pretty much except for a couple games. You go into this year, now you don't have Jalen Lowe. How did you not come into this year with another solution as a backup point guard in case my starter goes down again? You still didn't address the situation. So, and it shows. Because now, what does the one thing that Kentucky desperately need? A point guard. And he's not there because Jalen Lowe's done. We don't know if Quaintance is done. The rumor is that he's done and he's shutting it down for the draft, but he hasn't officially said it yet. And I think that's part of also why you kind of see Kentucky turning it around a little bit, because that whole first half, it was mixing in Jalen Lowe and Quaintance and then not having Quaintance and Lowe. And then now these guys have had time to play together, and kind of like you said, where you don't have certain guys, it affects you. But if I know who I have, I can just practice with those guys, and now they build up more chemistry. It's a little bit better. So that's why kind of like sometimes you see with some of these top guys, yeah, they've been out a while and it's great to get them back, but it kind of ruins chemistry a little bit.
Yeah, to me, team chemistry matters more.
So
than anything.
But I think that's Pope's biggest issue. I believe Pope can coach. And I believe he's got the X's and O's and knows the game to coach in game. I think he struggles with the recruiting part of it, just for maybe not so much out of these other schools, like I said, at BYU and stuff, but at Kentucky, you have to recruit certain type of guys. And they got to be different guys from your BYUs and stuff. So I think if he hires somebody to do the recruiting, now maybe it's just an assistant GM, or assistant coach. Maybe you go get a different assistant coach that's just, he's not really there to be a head coach in the future. He's there to go get guys. And maybe that's what it is. But I think the end result, I think you hire a GM. I think you get a GM, get some. My number one that I would call if I decide if I'm Kentucky to be a GM, I'm calling John Wall, a guy that's still for the University of Kentucky, reps them, wants nothing but the best for them. I'm calling him and be like, hey, we're going to pay you to just go to these recruits' place and just convince them to go to Kentucky. Because I think it'd be a lot easier if you're a top 5-star prospect and Mark Pope walks in my living room and talks me into going to Kentucky versus now John Wall's in my living room telling me to go to Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, and also they have a $22 million roster. And you got to have somebody that can manage that money.
Yeah.
John Wall was, I think, might be a perfect combo for both of those for Kentucky. I think that's a great idea. I think all college basketball teams nowadays should have a GM, especially if you're top if you're in the top NIL bracket like that,
Yep.
you need a GM to be managing that stuff.
Manage your NIL, manage your roster.
Yeah. Even if it takes a little bit out of your NIL to pay the person, I think it's still worth that. Because you can clearly see that with a $22 million roster, you can still not play well. So the
And that's what
chemistry
makes
piece
this
really
worse.
matters. And John Wall is a very smart basketball player.
Yeah.
Um,
And could probably help you as he could be a GM/assistant coach, because I'm sure John Wall could be a great coach to have in practice to show these guys some stuff.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure. Yeah, that Sounders kid, I didn't realize that he was on that list for Pope, but he had 33 and 10 yesterday against Kansas.
Yeah.
Which last thing before we move on to the last topic for college basketball. Darren Peterson. He's
best player in the country.
Yeah, but he only played a half yesterday. You know that, right?
Yep.
So, and he had 18 in the first half.
Yep.
So, or he played a little bit in the second half or something, but it was only basically a half of basketball, and he's been dealing with cramps. When he's on the court, that dude is by far the best player in the country. You can clearly see it. AJ Jabansta is really good still, but Peterson's on a different level. My problem is that when you keep having to leave games because of this, that is not looking good for you playing at the next level. Because how in God's name is he going to be able to play 82 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think it because it's not. I mean, cramps are bad, and it's something that if you don't take care of, they won't go away.
There's got to be an underlying problem somewhere.
Yeah, there
they got to
has
figure
to
it
be.
out.
So if I were
it's on him because cramps are because of you're dehydrated.
Correct.
If he's not taking care of his body in the when he's not playing and practicing, that's a problem, and it's going to be a problem in the next level. Or he will just be another one of those guys that is awesome at basketball but cannot play a full. It's like Zion. He's going to be a Zion Williamson is what will end up happening.
And which is very upsetting because what I'm about to say is not far-fetched. Darren Peterson is the closest thing to Kobe Bryant we have seen. He is the closest thing to Kobe that we have seen when you watch everything that he does. If you go back and watch young Kobe highlights to Darren Peterson now, it's a mirror image.
He gets a lot of Bradley Beal.
Now, my next comparison for him, which is probably more fitting with the cramps and where we could see the derailment in great player, but just can't ever stay healthy. His other comparison is Brandon Roy. And Brandon Roy, as we all remember, if you've watched Brandon Roy, was a dog.
Yeah.
But he couldn't stay healthy, which is kind of where the track of if Peterson doesn't change, it's where he's heading. Where he's going to be when he's on the floor, he's awesome. He's one of the probably, and I'm not projecting him to be this in the NBA just yet, but let's just say if everything works out, he's easily one of the 15 best players in basketball. He just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and this is a problem. If you can't even do it at the college level, there is absolutely no way you do this for 82 games in the NBA.
And see, this is where it sucks for Kansas, because if I'm Peterson, this is where I feel like after this has happened so many times, I got to make a decision. Do I shut it down and figure this out before the draft, or do I just keep trying to go about this?
Yeah, they got to. I mean, Kansas has done well without him. They found how to play together. Obviously, adding him back on the mix, they were destroying BYU in the first half. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he does need to make a decision. Is this? But if it's just cramps, dude, there's an underlying problem that he has to figure out before he goes to the NBA. And my initial gut says that he needs to shut it down, and him and his team, or his people need to figure that shit out. So
yeah,
I hate that because he is amazing to watch.
I hate it for Kansas, and I hate it for the college basketball fans because you want to watch Darren Peterson. But this is one of those situations where if he came out today and said, I'm shutting it down for the rest of the year, yeah, you're upset. But I don't blame him.
You have to understand it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Kid's looking at his future.
I mean, he's a projected number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. And listen, and saying this draft class is going to be nuts. Okay.
Stacked.
This
So
draft
much
class
talent.
is stacked because while Darren Peterson, I truly believe I had gone back and forth forever on who was the best player in the class between AJ and Darren Peterson. Yesterday, regardless going out with the injury or not, set the bar over for Darren Peterson for me.
I agree.
But it's not that huge of a gap. Like, I mean, we're talking like that much of a gap between Peterson, Dabansa, and then Cameron Boozer. Like,
I mean, yeah, but so if you start adding Boozer to the mix, I mean,
those three are the top dogs of this draft, and then that's when you start getting into the next level with like Caleb Wilson, Michael Brown, Kingston Fleming's at Houston.
right.
Like that's when you start getting into those next guys. But it's those three up top. Those are gonna be the top 3 picks in the draft, and it's just gonna be the matter of just who's drafting and who wants what.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm an NBA team in an organization, I keep seeing this from Peterson. I mean, I get a little worried about, like, are you going to be able to stay healthy?
Yeah, because I can look at somebody like AJ Dabansa and just be like, listen,
yeah,
listen,
I got
the
you.
gap isn't that huge.
Yeah,
I can get almost the same type of level production, maybe on worse efficiency a little bit, but he's proven to be more healthy. So
different size player too, right? I think Dabansa
right. 1'6'8", one's 6'4".
Right.
But I mean, I can get the same type of guy almost, but one just has an injury history, one doesn't.
Yeah, and
because listen, AJ Dabansa is insane in himself. So now I get it. Some people that don't like him because he's not efficient and everything, but at the end of the day, he can't take anything away from his talent. Right. Real quick before we move off of college basketball, I just want to point out, Doug. I pointed this out to you, but I want to show the viewers here. If you remember our video from last year at the NCAA tournament, where the things that you need to be the NCAA tournament winner. So we already have our 12 teams here, Douglas. We have our 12 teams that we know it's going to be one of these 12 teams to win the national championship.
Yep.
It's Alabama, Arizona, BYU, Duke, Gonzaga, Houston, Iowa State, Louisville, Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, UConn. Why do we know it's those 12 teams? Because they were in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. That was one of the credentials. The other credentials are top 40 KenPom offense, top 25 KenPom defense. You have to average at least 4 blocks per game as a team. You're top 25 in points per game, and then you can't be a first-time champion. There's only 2 teams so far. Now, granted, we'll do this again at the tournament. 2 teams so far check every box that you need. And it just so happens to be the number 1 and number 2 team in the country in Arizona and Michigan. And let me tell you, we talk about the gap between Dabansa and Darren Peterson. It's Arizona. Then there's, that small gap between Arizona and Michigan right now, just the smallest of gaps. And then it's everybody else right now. I mean, there's a lot of good teams, but I think as of now, as we speak, Arizona and Michigan have separated themselves from everybody else. So
I think Duke's coming together.
Yep. The only thing that they are missing off of this is they don't average 4 blocks per game as a team. So it's really the only thing they're missing. Other teams that are just one-off, Alabama isn't a top 25 defense. They're one off from what the credentials say. Let's see who else. Who else is one off? I think that's it. Oh, sorry. Michigan State. They're not a top 25 scoring team. And that's their one-off from everything else. And then UConn is not a top 25 scoring team. That's their one-off from them. So still got plenty of time. You can make your moves to get into this, but we all know the credentials. It's how we were able to predict Florida to win the national championship last year. So, but All right, so let's talk a little NBA. So again, kind of like college basketball, or kind of like with college basketball, we kind of haven't talked about the NBA because of college football and everything in the NFL. So a little bit of major news that happened in the NBA yesterday. Paul George is facing a 25-game suspension for violating the drug policy. Apparently, he took an illegal drug not that was not allowed by the NBA to heal from his injuries, and which I thought was pretty funny because there was a video earlier this week that went out where Paul George, I believe, did like a 360 dunk in like layup lines, and then just the other night he hit 9 threes in a game where he had 32, and I was like, that's crazy. Paul George hits 9 threes, and the NBA is just like, nah, we got to drug test this guy. Like,
Which, well, they got him.
and so, but yeah, I mean, Paul George, I mean, and you wouldn't think somebody like Paul George would get caught with this, but
Well, did
it
you
just
read
goes.
into it any?
I am not looked
So
deep
actually,
into
it had
it.
to do with his mental health, and not his physical.
Yeah, I saw where he put out the thing, and I read his comments where he was like, I took something I shouldn't have, and
Yeah, I mean, there's no telling what drugs are on that list. I mean, we might be able to look that up, but um, I mean, if it was something like that, I mean, that's probably why it was only 25 games and not longer. Uh, but I mean, he's going to come back in March. I mean, it's not like the end of the world. Apparently he is losing like $11 million over something.
yeah, he's gonna lose 11 mil. I mean, the 76ers are in a playoff spot right now. They've pretty much been playing on and off with him,
Yeah,
all year. So I'm sure they'll be able to figure it out, keep him in playoff position for when he comes back.
yeah. This isn't the worst thing in the world. It's just we haven't
No,
seen anything like this in a little bit.
not really from like a major player like that. I mean, I know Paul
Right.
George has kind of fallen off the last couple of years for injuries, but
Nine
still, big
threes ain't
name,
falling off.
big name. Um, but the main thing I wanted to talk about the NBA is, the NBA hasn't really. I don't know. I know you don't really follow the NBA for a whole lot unless it's really playoff time. Um, I do, but like this year is just kind of it's just hasn't excited me at all this year really to watch. There's been moments here and there, obviously, but I think part of that is it's kind of been boring with no trades right now. We keep hearing John Morant's name in trades, and we keep hearing Giannis's name in the trade block and everything. Like, I want to see somebody get moved. Let's make something interesting. Like, it's been kind of a dull season. We all already pretty much know everybody's playing to try to beat OKC again. So let's do something to make this interesting. I'm trying to be coming home at 1 a.m. again and my phone blowing up because Luka got traded like last year.
Yeah, but
Like,
that you can't expect that every year.
no, but I need something. I want to be able to open up my phone and it says Giannis Antetokounmpo traded to wherever. Something exciting. I just I need something because
Well, I think this goes to show the NBA again is losing the lust. I mean, this is just. I mean, if somebody like you is not even enjoying watching the play, that this is clear as day evidence, right?
yeah.
The NBA has to do something to change and excite the game up a little more, and especially now LeBron's leaving, that he's not going to be in there. People will love watching him, but now it's like, who do you watch? Luka's great, but he's not really flashy. Giannis is really like, hey, I'm going to go out there and dunk on people. Wembanyama is, I guess, fun to watch because he's just like 8 foot tall and does all kinds of shit. But I mean, it's not. It's just not.
It's not a good product.
Well, they're in a transition period. It's like, you had Jordan forever. Jordan left the league in 2002, and then LeBron entered in 2003. And it's like, now what? LeBron's about to leave, and then I know we've talked about this before, like who takes the league over, but you don't have that guy. He's not there's no face of the league really right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem. People are they just don't care about watching NBA basketball as much. I mean, my favorite player to watch is Curry. I like the way he plays. But and he's even on the his decline. So it's like,
So
in
I did
5
watch a
years, where does the
video.
NBA go? Their ratings are gonna tank.
Yeah, I did, and the ratings in multiple ways are going to tank when LeBron, because all these people that do nothing but sit on Sports Center and FS1 and dog LeBron, when he's gone, they're going to have nothing to
Yeah, they're
talk
gonna
about
have
anymore.
to
They're going to
complain
lose their
about
jobs.
somebody else.
They're going to lose their jobs because they're not going to be. Nobody's going to watch them anymore.
Yeah.
But there was a video I saw right before we started. And it said, I think the NBA should adopt this because, only the NBA, they said, because, they're, losing viewers, losing everything. Like college basketball doesn't have this problem. People bitch and complain about the transfer portal and NIL, but, you're not complaining about the product of the game.
Fair.
But he said, what I think the NBA should do is change their rules. And now it's just, we're not playing quarters. We're not playing halves. Like, we can have a halftime if you want to put a halftime on it. But he's like, the NBA should just do it first to 100. If I set a target score, because they were like, with a clock, there's always, players don't take time, don't, because it's, there's time. We got time. We can do whatever. We don't have to rush and do this. But if you set a target score, you're making people have to, all right, now instead of just, I've got 20 minutes to make this up. Nope. Because if you go down 20, you may be done the rest of the game. There is no time to make this up.
Right.
So he was like, set a target score at 100. You're going to increase the level of, people want to compete, want to be competitive. You're increasing people
Technically never out of a game.
You have to play defense to keep them from scoring 100. I mean, they were like, people are scoring 100 anyway. So what's it matter now? So, you could set like a halftime kind of like, once a team scores 50, all right, everybody to the locker room for 20 minutes or whatever, take your rest. And they're like, it makes coaches have to coach a little different because you have to coach strategically. And they were like, now your star players have to show up. And now when you put your bench in, it's we don't need you just to give starters and everybody some rest. It's you have to survive. You're going to have to compete out there.
I mean, the TBT does this. The basketball tournament, they do a target score.
And I loved it. I think it's great, way more exciting.
I was a little skeptical about when I first saw it, but after a couple years,
yeah. So maybe you don't do 100, but like if you do it something like that,
yeah,
set a target score. So if you still want to play the quarters and stuff,
you play 3 quarters,
and then the target score,
or 3.5, and then you give a target score of like, hey, this is what you have right now.
We're taking whatever the highest team is, plus what, whatever,
and then you go to that. It makes sense. And you get more. I think you get a little more excited about stuff like that.
You have to compete.
Like, oh yeah, they're up by 30. I'm just going to leave and I'm going to turn this off because I'm not watching the rest of this. But technically, your team can still come back and win no matter what, because if the other team goes on a shooting slump, you could come back 100%. It reflects it directly reflects your play as well. So I agree with that.
And that's what he was like. He was like, it forces your star player to have to play like stars. And so now, and we saw this with the All-Star game. The first year they did it, when they did it because of, they did it right after, Kobe's passing, they played it to that target score, highest team, we add 24. That's the target score. We saw it that first All-Star game. They were highly competitive that whole fourth quarter, or what was called the fourth quarter, to the target score. And that's where it was like the first time in a while in that All-Star game where we were like, this is actually a fun All-Star game.
Yeah.
So I think if you bring that to real life and make that every game, and if we just go, hey, like even if we just went on average per quarter the last 5 years, we just went through teams average 30 a quarter almost. Let's just say. So we just said, okay, we're going to take this. So the highest team, and after the third quarter, we're going to add 30. That's the target score. That's what you got to go for.
Yeah, there's a way to do this, and they can come up with the best way. I think it's great. I really do. I think that is a. I would probably watch NBA basketball a lot more if that was the case. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
I
like I
mean,
said, it puts pressure on a lot of people.
but they, again, this we're bringing this up because they have to do something. That no one wants to watch the NBA unless it's playoffs.
Now, I don't think you could do this for an 82 game season. I think if you do it this way, this is where you have to shorten it to the 65 game season.
Which seems fine to me.
Which is also like I understand the old head way of, oh, we played 82 and never had a problem. Yeah, well, there's a lot more into it nowadays. It's
There is.
fine. We adjust. People's brains don't have the mentality to watch this 82 games. Just like that's part of the biggest problem with baseball. Now they came up with the pitch clock and everything, and it's helped.
Yeah, that's
We don't have the capacity, the mental capacity to watch 162 games. We don't, unfortunately, we just don't have the mental capacity to watch 82 games.
all the time.
So shorten the season to 65. And
Yeah, you won't have any load management problems. You'll probably have a lot less players getting hurt.
right. And then
But the money you know what? This all goes down to money. Now you're losing those extra games, and now there's not money to be made at the stadiums.
they'll make up for it. I mean, and it's fine. But
I don't know.
But yeah, I think you shorten it to 65 and you do it this way, and I think you would see viewership skyrocket.
Yep.
So
well, there you have it. Now we just fixed the NBA for you guys.
But nobody listens to us.
No. Why would they? I guess I don't know. We're just awesome. Okay. Well,
We're here to make sports better.
Yes, that's it.
It's all we want. We've come up with ways to fix your college football playoff, fix your NIL, fix your transfer portal, fix the NBA. Listen, just listen.
Yep. All right, well, guys, that does it for this episode. Obviously, if you liked it, great. If not, we don't really care. But we want you to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.